I think that there is definitely an evolutionary instinct, but the thing is, what ethics probably is, broadly speaking, you asked for a definition, and I think a good definition of ethics is the continual process of trying to overcome our base animalistic material drives to act in accordance with what we sort of rationally think is the right thing to do.
And why would something rational be better than what our base instinct is?
Because our base instincts evolved in a totally different kind of organizational structure. We evolved like running around in tribes on the savannah, right? So, for example, tribal...
You didn't have to look at Al for that.
He looked at Mark.
He was fucking horrible.
He saw Mark's forehead. He's like, some of us are more evolved than others. I just know the most tribal, probably.
Mark's going to walk out here on his knuckles. You're right. Okay, you were saying.
And of course, you noticed that I've been looking at you every time I said homosexual, too.
It's the mustache.
The thing about evolving in that situation is that, like, you're going to be suspicious of anybody from a different tribe, right? And that makes sense. It makes sense to be suspicious of anyone who doesn't look like you, because there's like no reason to trust them. You're not doing like trade with them. That doesn't exist.
Sure.
You're just fighting each other. And so you just evolve this knee-jerk reaction to be distrusting of people who don't look like you. Then, like, agricultural revolution, boom, all of that kind of stuff. And now we live in a society and everybody is like mingling all together. And we think racism is just awful and terrible and really, really bad.
So how do we overcome some of these knee-jerk instincts?
Because of the change of our circumstances, we've developed this thing which, like, every single, all of the proud moments of like human history are characterized by like overcoming animalistic baselessness. You know what I mean? Like, that's always the case.
So you call it animalistic baselessness or animal instinct or whatever that is. Yeah. But let's just use that as like, bare minimum. Now, some of those still apply and are probably good. The ones that don't fit in modern society are the ones... I'm attracted to a beautiful woman. We get along. The feeling is great. I want to mate with her and create a family.
Sure.
I want to protect my kids because I have more DNA in those kids than I do my cousin.
Do you also have rational reasons to think those things?
Yeah, sure.
So there are still, like, it's not like sometimes you are just listening to your base instincts. You still are like rationalizing. It's just that sometimes that rationalizing, it links up with what your base desires are, and like, thank goodness this will be an easy one, but sometimes it doesn't. And we're constantly just trying to act in accordance with what we rationalize.
I'm not against the rationalization of it, but like sometimes we are putting that rationalization on posthumously. Is that the term? After the fact, right? And then but it doesn't mean that knee-jerk instinct is still useful in society.
Yeah,
there are certain things that work.
If you've, it will still be useful when you've rationalized something and think that this is actually the right thing to do, and you happen to still have a knee-jerk reaction to do it. That's really helpful. That's
helpful. Got it.
But the problem is that we've got knee-jerk reactions to all kinds of things. It wasn't that long ago that homosexuality was criminal.
Yeah.
And you could be thrown in jail for doing so.
And then what do you get to do? It's kind of like a gift.
I know.
Right? What a punishment. I'm with these guys that work out all day. And they're locked in a room with me. What if it was benevolent? What if that punishment was like, hey, let's just get them together? Now, you're kind of talking that shit, right? Putting them in the jail is much better than like lighting them on a fire or throwing them off a building or these other things.
That's probably true, because some people do that as well. But even the very way that we punish people has evolved. It used to be like, if you commit suicide a few hundred years ago, there are places where you would have your body dragged through the street. Your inheritance would not go to your family. You could not be buried in a grave because it was thought immoral. Because we have a knee-jerk reaction to stay alive. Of course we do.
I don't know if that's the reason why they would punish it.
It makes perfect evolutionary sense for us to think that whatever is going to cause our own death will be a bad thing. And
but why do you think that they put that punishment on top of it?
To discourage people from committing suicide.
But why? What is like the downstream effect of that?
Well, because like self-preservation is like an evolutionary important thing, right?
I think maybe it's the numbers of the tribe. You need to protect the tribe.
Yeah.
Or like your family is now the burden of the tribe, and now they disproportionately have to take care of them.
All of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there are rational reasons that they put even back in the day.
Yeah. But of course, like, it's not like we've just worked out in the past like 50 years all of these rational reasons. That they've always been there. It's just that they've sort of come up against this moral feeling that people have had.
So is that like the justification at the university level for looking into ethics? You're like, we've done so much rationalization of our behavior throughout history. We should continue to do it, and then we will continue to. We're not going to evolve at the same rate as society, but we can create behaviors that would be more harmonious with society.
No, the reason for doing it at an academic level
No, immediately not.
is because there's like no way to make money with a philosophy degree except for teaching people philosophy.
Yeah, fair.
That's it. Like they just invent stuff like this.
So you think it's
It
self-indulgent
was
in a lot of ways?
probably a philosopher who first tied the man to the tracks to essentially keep him in a job, I think. Yeah, like I think a lot of it is just as I like to call it. Well, people are just sort of arguing for the sake of arguing. Philosophical mass debating, you might want to call it.
Yeah.
And it is essentially just this self-indulgent like thinking, and a lot of the time it's kind of useless. Like there's this whole video, I think, of someone like on a plane and they're like, I don't know, they're choking or they're having some medical issue and they're like, is there a doctor on board? And a guy gets up and he's like, yeah, I'm a doctor of philosophy. And he sort of walks over and they're like, what should we do? And he's like, well, according to utilitarianism, we should use the resources for this. But deontology says that we can't take the property without the, and the guy just dies.
Yeah.
Because like on a real level, like this doesn't make a difference to a lot of people in terms of the way they actually live their lives. Right, a lot
in
of
the immediate moment.
Yeah, it's just a point for a lot of people. It's just a point of like you're already living how you're living. You already think what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong.
Right.
You're not going to change that. We're just trying to work out like as a point of interest, what's the like foundation for that. But philosophy goes in two ways. It either digs downwards, which is what we do when we try to figure out what good means, and we do these experiments. And it's like, well, let's dig downwards and see what's like in there. What's at the basis?
Yeah.
But there is the philosophy that works upwards too. It's like, well, what should we do? That's the constructive stuff. That's like, well, here's what I think is good, and here's how it should change your life.
But it's not always constructive, because as you said, sometimes it's self-indulgent. And
that's when I get frustrated is when it gets, and I understand the reason for it, but when it gets, well, how do you define this? How do you define that? It's like, I think we all have a fairly standard definition of empathy or whatever the word is. Then it feels less productive to me.
Yeah, and you just sort of sat around like arguing about trolleys on tracks for no reason. But it is useful to work out, to do the other thing, to go the other way and work out what you think, to then build up.
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis said that the purpose of philosophy is not to cut down forests, but to irrigate deserts. We're supposed to be actually building something up. That's why I like doing the trolley problem memes, because they help people work out what they actually think, and then you've got some more clarity on that, so then go and take that and build a philosophy out of it,